the Force for Good Show podcast. My name is Damon Friedman, and today we're going to be talking about what in the world is happening in Israel. Just a little bit about me. My last name is Friedman. Just a handful of years ago, I did a 23andMe, and I found out that, no joke, my biological father was, 100% Ashkenazi Jew. That totally threw me off, because even though I had bits of information about my biological father, the reality is that I had no idea that he was full-blooded. My mom is from San Juan, Puerto Rico. The most amazing mom you could possibly have, the first Wonder Woman of my life. And just trying to understand who my biological father is and my upbringing has been something that I've been really embracing ever since I found out that I'm 50% Ashkenazi Jew. And so a lot of people have come to me and they've said, "Hey, what's going on in Israel?" Like I'm an expert, a historian. I'm not. Just recently, I've been learning a lot about the historicity of the establishment of Israel and how all of this mess had come to be here, between Israel and Gaza. So this morning, today, for all my listeners out there, I'm sharing what's going down. And today, I'm going to share more of some historical facts. All right? I think that the facts are very, very important. I love to kind of share, hey, here are the facts. This is how I feel. And that way you can have the opportunity to digest the information and come up with your own convictions. Because I'm going to tell you something right now. It's very, very sticky. It's very, very sticky. The other day, I'm at my son's race, and I see a gentleman, and he's wearing a T-shirt that says Free Palestine. And had the fist and everything. And at first I was thinking, do you even know what's going on here? Right? Like, do you have any grasp of what's happening over there in Israel? But then that moment of clarity came, like, hey, listen, not every Palestinian is a terrorist. And it's not. And it's very important that everybody out there understands that. There are really good people out there that are Palestinian and live out in Gaza. It's true. Right? And there are bad people that are Palestinian, right? And some of them decide to join a terrorist group, like Hamas. And so the reality is that it's also important to understand that even though I'm 50% Ashkenazi Jew, it doesn't really mean that every Israeli is a good person. It's not. But there's a lot of really great Israeli people, and I think that there's a commonality between these two communities. And it's unfortunate that there's so much hatred and friction. And so many people are asking, like, what's the solution? What's the secret? As soon as all the bombs and explosions and kidnappings and all that stuff happened, everyone's blowing up my phone like I know everything. So I had to really dig into, where did it all start? What's the inception? And so that's what I want to talk about this morning, and hopefully we have enough time. And just, public service announcement. I mean, peace is what we all want. Peace is needed desperately. We need to figure out a way how we're going to come to peace within these two communities. I know that there are a lot of people out there. It's like, look, it's impossible. I think that anything is possible. I really do. So let's talk about Israel and Gaza. And what I did was, I did my research. I'm a big IDF fan. Israeli Defense Force. They're tough as nails. They're the hardest people that you're ever going to run into, because unlike America, Israel's surrounded by the enemy, and Israel has to constantly be on the defense. That's just a fact. All right. So where did it all begin? All right, 1947. In 1947, the UN partition plan proposed dividing the British Mandate into two independent states. That's what happened in 1947. Two independent states. All right, somebody had to get together, and it was an international endeavor. And so they go, all right, we've got the Jewish state and we have the Arab state. They drew lines, and if I can, I'll have my producer actually put some geographical some pictures to kind of see the where all the lines are, and where Israel, where the Jewish state is and where the Arab state is, because there's a lot of people that don't know. It's a mess the way that they drew it. So what happened was the Jewish state said yes, but the Arabs said no. And what ended up happening was that there was this big war. It broke out between this newly born state of Israel against not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, not six, but 7 Arab armies. And so here's this war in 1947, and it goes on for years. It goes on for 2 years. Now, let me tell you, at this point in time, Gaza wasn't part of Israel. It wasn't. It was under Egyptian rule. Yeah. When I read about that, I was like, wow, that's very interesting. So how did we get to where we're at? Well, then all of a sudden, 20 years later, in 1967, the whole world hears about this 6-day war. All right, the 6-day war. And 5 Arab armies attacked Israel. So they're going all in, right? And so Israel, as usual, taking a stand, fighting hard against an enemy, 5 Arab armies, and yet again, Israel successfully defends its homeland. But this time, throughout the battle, man, they claim some ground. That's right, Gaza. So all of a sudden, Israel successfully defends the motherland and gains control of Gaza throughout this entire process. It's very, very interesting how this all how this materialized. At the same time, starting between 1967 to 1988, people could move freely between Gaza and Israel throughout this whole time. And you're thinking, how is that possible? Well, Israel created some parameters. There were some rules of engagement, and people had the freedom to go in and out. They could move freely between the Gaza and Israel. And then all of a sudden, something happens. The first Intifada changed everything. What is an Intifada? Well, an Intifada is definition here: a protracted grassroots campaign of protest. It says, and sometimes violent resistance, which it was way beyond violent resistance, which I am going to share with you with some details. All right. And it's the Palestinian Arabs in the Gaza Strip and West Bank. And this is the first time, beginning in 1987, I'll probably forget, but maybe my producer will remind me, but it happens again in 2000. So the first Intifada comes into effect with a series of violent uprising. Like we're talking about terrorism to the extreme. All right? Terrorism to the extreme. These terrorist attacks by this Intifada against Israeli civilians. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, war is hell. It is hell. Hands down, it's hell. It's an understanding that those that raise up arms against another unit, an enemy that also has arms. It's not civilians. Now, I'm going to tell you that in war, civilian casualties, it happens. It's an atrocity. It's terrible. And it's what happens in the midst of war. But when you start purposefully attacking civilians, this is a global problem. This is a global problem, right? I mentioned in a different podcast where, you got this special forces team leader and there's a machine gun position in a building and they're just mowing it down and your team is pinned down. And you got a combat controller, a JTAC, and he controls some air power. F-15 overhead, drops a bomb, blows up the building. You do a battle damage assessment. Yeah, those machine gunners are dead. But through this process, you see that there are some innocent women and children. Like that's it happens. It's terrible. We need to be precise. We need to make sure we do everything we can. Everything that we can to prevent that from happening. But it's a different story when you aim for the civilians just to gain leverage. This is an entirely different circumstance. And that's what started happening. These were horrific acts of violence. And it was happening throughout the whole country. Suicide bombers. You know what they do? Yeah, they strap on bombs. Not just the men, the cowards that strap these bombs on women, children. They have them run into a marketplace. They have them run into a school. They put these bombs in vehicles. They blow innocent people up. Cowards. Cowards. They're out there and they're doing some serious crimes. I mean, they're shooting people in the streets. They're killing people. They're stabbing them. They have cars and they're ramming into people. I mean, they're just bodies flying up in the air. Where's the honor? Where is it? They're kidnapping innocent women, innocent children, innocent people. Like, come on, man. This is what happened. This is what the Intifada did. Right, like that whole event, these protests, these violent resistance. It's beyond a protest. I support protesting. I really do. I don't support rioting. I support you sharing your conviction within, reason. I mean, and I'll talk to you about that. I mean, I don't promote terrorism. I don't. So this is what happened. So in 67 and 88, people could move freely between Gaza and Israel, and then all of a sudden, this craziness starts happening. Right, and at the same time, in 1987, this is where it all goes south. Hamas is established. All right, it's established, and I'm going to tell you right now, it was a terrorist group when it started, and it's a terrorist group today. And what it did was that when Hamas was established, all these terrorists, they initiated many of these abhorrent behaviors, all these killing of innocent Israeli civilians. Like they were just getting after it. So what happened? What are you going to do when you're surrounded by an enemy and they're doing these things? They're targeting innocent people. What are you going to do? This is what Israel did. In order to increase security measures, they had to build a security fence. That's what they did. I mean, after years and years and years of all this terror, all these horrific events, they had to build kind of a wall, right? Like, that's what you do. We're trying to build a wall to keep certain people out and to keep certain people safe. This is what happens. You see this in kingdoms. You see this in America when we're trying to build a wall to keep certain people out from the South. It's necessary. They're violent, evil, vile humans going through the border. We got to protect our borders. Israel is trying to protect the motherland. So they build a security fence to prevent these terrorist attacks from Gaza. And so ultimately, it took quite a while. It did. But ultimately, it finished in 1996. In 1996. Yet, even though they had that fence for security, terrorism and all these horrific acts continue. They continue. And in 2005, this is what Israel does. Listen to me. This is incredible. This is like mind-blowing. All right? That this is what they did. The IDF, right? What they had to do was they got this information that Israel is going to literally withdraw from the Gaza Strip. So the IDF's like, they had to oversee this extraordinarily painful move. Because in the Gaza Strip, did you know that there was a little under 10,000 Israeli civilians that actually were there? Yeah. It wasn't just Palestinians. There were Israelis and Palestinians that lived in that area. And so Israel finally says, look, enough is enough. You're here, you get to keep the Gaza Strip. We're going to move all of our people out. And it was hard for them because that was their home. And why did they do it? Why did Israel do this? They did it because they had hoped that there would be some peace, that it would lead to peace. Well, in 2006, something crazy happened. So, Israelis get out of the Gaza Strip, and then all of a sudden, Hamas rears its ugly head to a very super powerful platform. They win the Palestinian legislative election. And then you know what they did? They forcefully took power of Gaza in 2007. So think about this, right? So Israel withdraws from the Gaza Strip in 2005. In 2006, Hamas wins the election, and then they take over all of Gaza in 2007. Check this out for all of you people. Did you know that there has never, ever been an election since 2007? That's right. There hasn't. The Palestinian legislative election, there hasn't been one since 2007. This is crazy. So, where are we? At this point in time, the Gaza is still accessible from both Israel and Egypt. This is interesting. So you've got Palestinians still going to Israel. Why? For work, for community. There's a reason why. But despite Hamas' ongoing attacks on Israel, Israel continued to assist with the delivery of humanitarian aid to Gaza throughout different areas, particularly the Erez and Kerem Shalom crossings, which tens of thousands of Gazans cross every day on their way to work in Israel. I mean, Israel's trying to do the best that it can in its current circumstance. Now, obviously, I'm looking at through the lens of Israel. I understand that. I understand that part. I do. I'm just giving you some historical context and some facts. That's all I'm doing. We're not talking about emotions. We're not talking about who did wrong and who did right. I'm telling you about what was happening and what continues to happen today. So both crossings to Israel were critically damaged just recently in October 7th specifically of this year. This crossing was critical for the Gazans. It really was. Because I just shared with you that literally tens of thousands of Gazans cross every day to Israel. Their livelihood is there. So what happens? So Hamas terrorists broke through the security fence and damaging 9 of these 10 electric cables from Israel into Gaza. So whatever happened, right? These, both crossings for Israel, right, to Israel is literally it's critically damaged after Hamas terrorists and their attacks. So what's going on? What's going on right now? Let me tell you what's going on. What's going on is some craziness. To date, Hamas terrorists has massacred over 1,400 innocent Israelis. And they've abducted more than 200 into Gaza. They have fired numerous rockets toward Israel every single day. Every day since. It's crazy. That's where we are. Now, there's a whole lot more to talk about as far as today, but I wanted to make sure that the audience understands the historicity of what's been going on. And I'm here to tell you, I don't care who you are. Killing innocent women and children, kidnapping them, hangings, burning bodies, not okay. That's not war. That's definitely not honorable anyway. I guess that's what I'm trying to say, because that's obviously war to the extreme terrorists, which I faced for 20 years in the military. I'm here to tell you, we all want peace. I honestly don't know how we're going to ever establish it, especially when we have countries that support terrorism. It's unacceptable. I don't care who you are. You don't support terrorists. You don't. I want peace in the Middle East like everybody else. Trust me, you have no idea how much blood that's been shed out on that battlefield. Numerous deployments. Millions of Americans have gone out to the Middle East, and blood was shed. I'm telling you right now, I don't know how we're ever going to find peace, but what I do know is that we have a right as a nation to fight for freedom. We have a right as a nation to fight for those that can't fight for themselves. We have a right as a nation to fight for those that are oppressed. And these acts of Hamas is despicable and unacceptable. That's all I've got. That right there is the history, black and white, between Israel and Gaza since the very, very, very beginning. This is the Force for Good Show podcast, and my name is Damon Friedman. Godspeed.